Alright lads, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going over my 5 most underrated tanks in War Thunder. Now when I say underrated, I'm talking about my personal feelings towards them, so don't be upset if you disagree or anything like that. And it's also just how I feel about them. Like, I don't feel they get enough attention and they are diamonds in the rough, if you kind of get what I'm saying. Now I can't really rank these from 1 to 5 in most or least, because it's just 5 vehicles that I really like playing, which I don't really see a lot of people playing them, and they are very, very good in my opinion. So to start us off, we've got the Comet. The Comet is a rank 3 British medium tank, sitting at battle rating 5.7. It did used to be 5.3, where it was very good, but it's still very good at 5.7 as well in my opinion. We've got that good old 17 pounder. I don't think it's the full length as the 17 pounder on the Firefly, but it is still more than powerful enough. Our shot Mark 8, a solid shot APC-BC, it's still penetrating 152mm of penetration, which at 5.7 is good enough. Maybe the Panther's upper frontal plate will give you a bit of a trouble, but we also have the shot SV Mark 1, that gives us 220mm of penetration. That allows you to go straight through the upper frontal plate of a Panther, and makes Tigers just a bit of a laughing stock really. Granted, the post-pen damage isn't the best with the APDS round, but if you're aiming for a Tiger, he's almost certainly taking full ammunition because Tiger players tend to be not the brightest, but glossing over that fact, it's still a very good tank. It's also fairly agile as well. It's not as mobile as the, what's it called now? The tank that everyone loves. The Cromwell, sorry. That's a world of tanks law there. The Cromwell was super fast, but then the Comet is quite slow compared to it. But it's still faster than the big stupid German heavies. It's got a good powerful gun on it. Pretty decent post pen if you're using the solid shot APC-BC. And you've got that option of a very high penetration round as well. The reload speed is also pretty competitive, to be honest. 7.4 seconds with an ace crew. That's about the same as a Tiger, so you don't really have the post pen damage as a Tiger with a similar reload, but you trade that for high amounts of penetration. So that has kind of been the British trait up until like the later on in the British tech tree. You've got rather mediocre post pen damage but very high penetration. Allows you to counter some of the big German heavy tanks. But the Comet, you don't really see them that often. No one really plays Britain. They kind of just grind through this like World War II bit and then try and get to top tier as possible. So middle tiers Britain isn't really that popular, but the Comet is a diamond in the rough. I have the pretty rare Comet 1 Iron Duke 4. It's a premium. It's on sale for something stupid in the store, but if you really like it, I would recommend, well, it's like over 100 quid. I wouldn't recommend getting it, but it's a very good tank. And for our second vehicle, we have the IKV-91. This is in the Swedish tech tree, the 4th rank, and it sits at battle rating 7.3. You might be saying, SAKO, what's so special about this Swedish light tank? Well, it has a heater fest round with 400mm of penetration, which at 7.3 is very good, to be honest. But more importantly, we also have a laser rangefinder. As far as I'm aware, this is one of the lowest tanks with a laser rangefinder, and it has the same feature as top tier tanks where it will automatically set the range of the gun to whatever your rangefinder is. So it makes it very easy to use this tank as a sniper at long range. And at battle rating 7.3, most tanks you're fighting aren't going to be that fast, so you can laser them from quite a while away and just give them a little bit of lead, and generally your round is going to hit. The tank, compared to most light tanks, isn't the fastest, but it's certainly not a slouch. Can't really say much about the armor because it is basically 4mm thick, so it's not really going to be winning any awards for survivability. I believe the barrel is actually the thickest part of this tank, so yeah. The crew will be turned to Swedish meatballs. It's a very macabre way of thinking about it, but less negatives. The tank is very good. It's excellent in my opinion. It doesn't have a gun stabilizer, which is probably the only serious downside of this thing. The tank also has a pretty low profile as well as 10 degrees of gun depression, which allows you to be very sneaky in this tank. If we quickly look at the reload speed, I believe the reload is actually pretty decent on it. It reloads at 6 seconds with an ace crew, so you're fairly mobile, low profile, laser rangefinder, 400mm penetration round, and you can fire every 6 seconds. It's a great little scout tank. It's obviously not, well, no light tank's a brawler, but it's a very powerful lineup to the Swedish 7.3 lineup. I use it in my 7.7 Swedish lineup, and you do have quite a lot of vehicles around that battle rating to complement this tank. It's not like you're mainly just using a light tank for your main spawn. You've got a lot of medium and heavy tanks. So, fantastic addition in my opinion. probably one of the dark horses of War Thunder. Not many people really know about it, but it is incredibly good fun to play. For our next tank, we are sticking with the Swedish theme, and we're going to the Stridsforden 9040 Bill. The Bill stands for Bofors Infantry Light and Lethal. It's basically the two missiles that we find on the top of the tank. The 57mm anti-tank rifles, I believe, or 56mm. Like the TOW-2Bs, these are top-down attack missiles. While they don't have the most penetration in the world, they are incredibly lethal. They have been, well, a lot of the top-down attack missiles like the TOW-2s and the Bills, they've been nerfed recently. I think a lot of the Soviet players were getting butthurt in the forums saying they keep on getting killed in one shot. It's surprisingly realistic though if you've been paying attention to the current conflict. A lot of T-72s and T-90s have been having their turrets popped by missiles such as these. If you like, you can think about the Bills as basically like earlier versions of the NLAWs. It's kind of the same technology. So you have two of these Bills, which is impressive in and by itself, but we still have the 9040 chassis. This gives us a high rate of fire 40mm autocannon, as well as pretty decent mobility, to be honest. These tanks were designed to cross the Swedish, basically like boggy marshes and snow, so it's pretty decent. It's got good ground resistance. You can go over a lot of wet ground. The tank isn't the fastest as a light vehicle. You don't really need to be. It's not that sort of light tank. It's not like a scout. It's more of it's like a supporting vehicle for your main battle tanks. Those top-down attack missiles are incredibly lethal. If you see one of your friendlies is in like a bit of a battle with someone hull down, you can just fire these missiles over the top of the enemy tank and they're pretty much dead. The main gun itself though, it does have the SLPPRJ, whatever that means, with 143mm of penetration. Like the HSTVL's gun though, you're not going to have the best post-pen damage in the world though, so you are going to have to shoot quite a lot of them into people. We do also have the proximity fuse rounds for the gun as well, so you can use this to shoot down enemy drones as well as enemy helicopters. So it's basically one of those tanks which you can use in pretty much all aspects. It's pretty good at killing campers that are hull down behind cover. You can use it to engage a low-flying aircraft. You're decently mobile. The armor's nothing to write home about, but we do have second generation thermal images for the gunner and the commander. So this is a fantastic vehicle in simulator battles. Unlike the IKV-91, we also have a fantastic lineup. The 10.0 Swedish lineup is probably one of the best in the game, only rivaled really by the German 10.0 lineup. We have like the three other Stridsforden 9040s. Got the C model as well as the anti-aircraft model, the 940C, sorry. We also have the Stridsforden 121, which is the Leopard 2A4. We also have the Finnish Leopard 2A4. As well, if you're a premium player, we also have the CV90-105. So all these vehicles in combination with the 9040 Bill, it is a fantastic vehicle. The only downside of this tank is I believe it only has a early gun stabilizer. So once you go over like, I think it's 20 kilometers per hour or something like that, you do lose gun stabilization. But you shouldn't really be using these as a brawler. You want to be getting to a good position, stopping, setting up a little tent, roasting some bacon, and then shooting the stupid Russian tanks that drive past you. Alright, so the next vehicle, we're taking a trip to everyone's favourite country, China, Bing Shelling, you know, those memes that you kids keep saying now. And we're taking a look at the AFT-09. This is a 4x4 rocket launcher, I guess, or, well, it's a Jeep with a rocket launcher on it, basically. So the tank itself, being based on a 4x4 chassis, it's similar to like the French Santal and stuff like that. It's very mobile, it's very fast, you can get around the battlefield very quickly, especially on the maps where you do have paved roads. It's still mobile on rural countryside maps though, so it is still usable on pretty much every map you go on. The tank also has night vision as well as thermal imaging, which allows you to be very sneaky and gives you good target acquisition. Another thing I'd mention is that when you unlock this tank or when you grind it out, you already have the best missile, so it's a very easy stock grind, and that is because we have the HJ9 missiles. If you think the missiles found on the BMP-2M, the Cornets, if you think that those missiles are good, then these things are even better. The HJ9s are tandem warhead with the same penetration as the BMP-2M's missiles, 1200mm, but they travel 200 meters per second faster. This makes them incredibly lethal because they're just so fast, it doesn't really give enemies any time to react to them coming in. They're also good against helicopters and stuff like that. You have to be quite a decent aim to do that, but they still are very good. The warhead on these bad boys contains 4 kilos of TNT equivalent, giving them good penetration, a fast travel time, and a very likely one-shot kill if you get a centre of mass. Because the ATF-09 is so fast, as well as having such lethal missiles, it's just so annoying to enemy players if you get into a good spot at the start of a game. The missiles are also mounted at the very top of the vehicle, which allows you to get into like a hold down position and fire over obstacles. It is one of the most overpowered vehicles in the game if you can get into a good spot. It's kind of like that American squadron vehicle where, what is it called, one sec, the M901 I believe it's called, where you can, like the Wally tank. That thing was considered very overpowered, and that only has ITOs I believe, whereas this thing has basically upgraded cornets. But again though, a lot of people don't bother grinding out the Chinese tech tree because it is basically, well, in some ways it's knockoff Russia, but in some ways it's upgraded Russia. That is what the Chinese did. They basically just stole Russian technology and then improved it with stolen Western technology. But let's not bring real life into this. The AFT-09 though is a very good, well, I guess it's not a tank. It's also not an infantry fighting vehicle. I don't really know what they call this. A destruction on wheels, let's call it. But we have a good sensor suite. We've got those thermals that I mentioned. We've got 4 missiles. Then you have a reload, smoke grenades, high top speed. You can't really say there's anything negative about this apart from maybe the armor, but if you're getting shot in this thing, then you're playing it wrong to begin with. And finally for this video, we have the BMP-1. This is actually quite a common vehicle, but to me, at 7.3, it is one of the, if not my first spawn vehicle, then one of the second or third spawn. It's fast, fairly low profile, pretty sneaky. It's got decent weaponry as well. It's also a rank 5, so it's great to put a talisman on it, because you can grind out pretty much all of rank 6. You have a BMP-1 for the German, Russian and Chinese tech trees now, and I think I've got a talisman on all. I think I've got a talisman on the German and the Russian one, but not on the Chinese one. The Chinese one's a little bit unique as well, as we'll get to shortly. The German and the Russian BMP are both copy and paste of each other with just the markings that are different. When you get this tank stock, it's not the best because you have the Fagot missile on the 9M14, which is SAKO. It's a WASD guided, so it's not that good though. Once we get the BMP-1 upgrade, we have the nice 9M113. This is aimed by your mouse cursor, making it a very powerful missile, especially at 7.3, where you're mainly fighting big, fat American stupid tanks, which your missile can easily go through. The 73mm gun though is also still good. It's a high explosive anti-tank shell with 300mm of penetration, so you're fast, low profile, very high pen and pretty good post-pen damage as well. The Chinese BMP is a little bit different. It's called the ZBD-86. The main difference is the missile. He gets the HJ-73E. This is actually a tandem charge missile with 800mm of penetration. Again, at battle rating 7.3. This makes it very good in my opinion. Again, like the Chinese, they take Soviet vehicles and make them a little bit better. It's well worth grinding out the Chinese tech tree. And the ZBD, sorry. Basically, the BMP, it's just a great all-round vehicle. You can't really criticize it. The survivability isn't amazing. You are quite vulnerable to CAS as well as artillery. But I put a talisman on them. They're such good grinders. At battle rating 7.3 again, it's like the vehicle is quite asymmetrical. A lot of the vehicles you will be going up against are like heavy tanks, which tend to be quite slow, or even medium tanks, you do outpace them. And with your recoilless rifle and missile, you basically hard counter any heavily armoured opponent on the battlefield. But again, it's a vehicle that I feel like a lot of people play, but they don't really appreciate just how powerful it can be. It often gets overshadowed, or it used to be overshadowed by its big brother, the BMP-2 at 8.3. And you could argue that that tank is better than this vehicle, but at 7.3, I think it's more dominant, to be honest. I'm also quite biased. I've used the BMP to grind out the majority of the Russian and German tech trees, or I did when I first started unlocking them. It's just such a good vehicle. If you want to practice with any vehicle to get better at the game, I'd say the BMP-1 is a very good choice. It just makes up the backbone of my 7.3 lineups for the German and Russians. And as a final added bonus, the BMP-1 just seems to survive a lot of bullshit tank rounds. You shoot this thing in the front and it just kills the driver and doesn't do anything to the rest of the crew, so it's quite trolly as well. But anyway lads, I hope you enjoyed this type of content. I'm going to try and make it a little bit more with them and upload them as well as the reviews. Trying to just diversify it a little bit. I'm quite busy at the minute and I probably am going to be for the foreseeable future, so I want to try and make some content that's high quality and some like this where it's just me kind of talking into a microphone with minimal editing really. Anyway, I hope you don't mind that, lads. Let me know what you think are your top 5 underrated vehicles in War Thunder. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.